Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and when Tom Cotton speaks, you need to listen. He's one of the calmest voices in all of DC, and he has to correct this ridiculous reporter who has no idea what she's talking about. But before I dive into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Native Path, whose products, particularly their collagen peptides, can help you live a healthier lifestyle, but more on that later. Now, let's dive into the video.
The discovery of 6 bodies, hostages, including Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Poland. Everyone, I think, feels heartbroken this morning, the entire nation and frankly world mourning these deaths. What is your reaction, Senator, and what do you think this will mean for hostage negotiations?
Well, it's terribly sad news that Hamas executed these 6 hostages in cold blood, apparently shot them in the head shortly before they might have been rescued by Israeli Defense Forces. My heart goes out to all the families, especially Hirsch Goldberg Poland's family, our fellow American. There are other fellow Americans still to be accounted for. But I think we should note that these hostages were discovered in the tunnels under Rafah. That's where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put pressure on Israel not to enter for months, used an arms embargo to try to keep them from entering. Kamala Harris even said that Israel shouldn't enter Rafah because she had studied the maps. What the Biden-Harris administration should have done from the beginning is not pressure Israel to restrain its response, but let Israel win from the very outset. For 11 months, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have put more pressure on Israel than they put on Hamas and Iran's other terror proxies.
And Senator, just to be clear, there, of course, is no arms embargo. It is true that the Biden administration did halt one shipment of arms out of concern over civilian casualties.
No, Kristen, that's not correct.
It is correct. There's no arms embargo.
For weeks, the Biden-Harris administration put an embargo not just on large 2,000-pound bombs, which of course are needed to penetrate these deep and buried tunnels, but on things like tank rounds and artillery shells and mortar rounds.
It was just one shipment of arms. It was the
2,000-pound. No, Kristen, it was a large category of weapons.
500 pounds.
But it was a large category of weapons.
Okay, but they have now moved forward with that. It's not an arms embargo, though, just to be very clear. That's a very specific term, and it's not an arms embargo.
It was in place for many weeks, specifically to try to prevent Israel from entering Rafah, where these hostages were discovered. If we had simply backed Israel to the hilt from October 7th, this war would probably be over. We probably would have found many more hostages alive, and there would have been fewer civilian casualties caused by Hamas's infliction of those civilian casualties on its own people. But at every turn, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have put more pressure on Israel than they have on Iran and Hamas.
Y'all, like I said in the video, when Tom Cotton speaks, everyone, Democrats, Republicans, the aides, even the people in the balcony, will listen. Because he is one of the most soft-spoken, simple, yet effective communicators because he knows his stuff. He is a policy wonk like no other, but he can actually communicate it to the average voter. And that's why John Kasich couldn't top Trump. He was fantastic when it came to policy and understanding that element. But you know what he couldn't do? He couldn't formulate it simple enough for voters to even care. I was a big Kasich fan in 2016 because, well, I'm a policy wonk myself, or at least I like to think of myself as that. But Tom Cotton does such a good job communicating, and what sets him apart isn't just the fact that he's tall and commands respect. He doesn't just know his stuff. He's able to point out that this reporter does not know what she's talking about. She tried to correct the record because the media, again, I think this is a MSNBC channel. I know it's an NBC channel. The mainstream media outlets, and then some of the cable ones as well, run point for the Biden and Harris administration because that's what butters their bread. Right? They make more money catering to rich white liberals and slowly choking out the competition by supporting Democrats who want more government, more regulations, more restrictions, and that benefits the major corporations and it benefits people who work in mainstream media outlets. Hey y'all, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our new sponsors, Native Path. Created by Dr. Chad out of Austin, Texas, he realized that there was something deeply wrong in this medical community. And instead of focusing on nutrition, they were just focused on serving big pharma. So he left and created this new company called Native Path. And what do they do over there? They sell something called collagen. Now, what is collagen? Well, it's not magic fairy dust. It's not this muscle milk. It's not calcium rich. Instead, it is an odorless, flavorless, dissolves completely in water powder that you can mix. And unlike iocane powder, this stuff has massive health benefits. It can help your bones, your joints, your ligaments, your skin, your hair follicles, even your fingernails. This stuff is absolutely packed with the nutrients that we lose so constantly in our modern diet. This stuff is a fantastic supplement, can help you live a healthier life. And if you go to this link down here below, you will find up to 45% off of certain products. That is how much Native Path cares about your health. So go check them out, link in the description below. And now, back to regularly scheduled programming. And furthermore, it's an attempt to reach their audience, and their audience are rich white liberals who live up in an ivory tower and have no concept of the world around them. And unfortunately, they've raised these little cretins called college students, and these left-leaning college students think that Palestine and Palestinians are the most important people in the world and need to be protected. And you know what? There is some good criticism you can have of the state of Israel. I'll say this, and this is my main criticism. What they do in the West Bank is very, very shady, and it does violate treaties and some international law. However, Hamas and Hezbollah are like, you know what? I was about to say they're like the little sibling that says, I'm not touching you in the car trip. No. They are actively terrorizing Israel. And I love giving this example, but I'll make it as short as I can. Imagine that you ran a falafel sandwich shop or a stand, but the problem was you bite into it and all the good stuff leaks out. And so the person who actually owns the property says, hey, I'm going to build a nice new modern building, and there's going to be people who do exactly what you do, but their falafel sandwiches don't burst. And so you have three options. You can either move, which is impractical, so you can go and throw that out. 2, you can work with that new falafel sandwich shop and maybe even be able to manage it because you know what you're doing. All you need is a little extra training. Or you can sabotage it and try to burn it to the ground. And that is exactly what Hamas and Hezbollah are trying to do. They will not rest until victory. Therefore, they need to be put to rest. That's the simple logic here. They will not surrender. They took hostages. They invaded space that wasn't theirs and committed just untold amounts of terrible acts. Do not look up what they did to the women of that festival, okay? It was one of the most evil things I have ever seen on screen. And we are approaching that date again. We're approaching the 1-year anniversary. And we have to start asking ourselves, do we want this to happen again? Because what Hamas does, they use human shields. They will set up operations in hospitals. And when Israel finds out about this, well, what are you going to do about it? You've got to root out the people that are firing rockets into your country. They're defending, this is self-defense. This is a defensive war. And for some reason, Tom Cotton has to completely correct this reporter who says, well, the Biden-Harris administration didn't really have an embargo against weapons. It was only a one-time shipment thing. And Cotton came with the receipts like he always does and basically shows that she's wrong. So ultimately, you have to ask yourself, why is she running point for Biden? Well, it's not just because rich white liberals need to have their egos massaged. It's far deeper than that. There's an election going on, if you haven't noticed, and it's a big one. And Kamala Harris knows that if she loses Michigan, it's over. And it's possible that she might even lose Minnesota, because there are a whole bunch of Muslim migrants who are now registered to vote in those areas that keep those states fairly blue. And they are livid with Biden supporting in any way, shape, or form the state of Israel. And it's possible that they stay at home during this election. And so the media is trying to run point and say, well, it's not as bad as you're saying it is. And Tom Cotton simply looks her in the eye and goes, no, Biden and Harris have been dragging their feet and making it harder for them to win. And I agree with him in his final statement that if the United States had properly backed Israel, we would not be talking about this conflict right now. It would have been over in a matter of weeks, maybe a few months. But that's not what Biden and Harris did, because they cared more about winning an election, or hoping to win an election, than they did about the American hostages that were taken and that were found executed. Now, that's not the official report, but it looks that way, in the tunnels beneath the town of Rafah and the Gaza Strip. This is Benghazi all over again. And if you don't remember Benghazi, what happened there is in 2012, after the CIA fomented the Arab Spring, and after Gaddafi was ousted from power, Libya fell into chaos. It is still in chaos today. There's still human trafficking going on in that country. In the town of Benghazi, there was a U.S. embassy. And instead of sending in troops to go in and get those people out of there when the embassy was under attack, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were sitting in the Situation Room watching it moment by moment. They saw what happened and they did nothing. That's essentially what's going on with the Biden and Harris administration. It's not as bad, but there were American hostages that were found executed right before they could be liberated. If that doesn't make you mad, I don't know what will. I think I'm going to have to end this there. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibroil. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, hug your loved ones. Y'all have a good one.